Hi everyone, I'm Trev from Coiltek. We're just doing some videos on the NOX coils that we're releasing, the NOX series. We have 3 coil sizes for the NOX series, a 10x5, 14x9 and a 15 inch. And today I'm going to have a bit of a chat with Gordon Heritage, and he has been testing and using the coils for some time now.
Hi everyone.
Excellent. And so with the 15 inch, that is a specialized coil, like you said, for the professional users and the people that have really enjoyed the large coil from Minelab. The 15 inch will be a great option. The 10x5, if people are really wanting that sensitivity, like the 6 inch, maybe even a bit better, because it is 5 inches wide. So you're narrowing that magnetic field just so it becomes a little bit more sensitive, but you do have that footprint. So what you're saying, that one's going to be really good for the maneuverability, getting in and around areas, looking for that sensitivity, smaller stuff, and hoping to snag something in amongst the trash as well. Have you found the target separation been not too bad with that when you have hunted with it?
Well, I mean, the machine, the Equinoxes are great for target separation anyway. So they've all been quite good. Even the 15 inch coil, where there is a lot of iron in the ground on the pasture, you can still sort of wriggle it out quite well. Obviously, you don't want too much iron to be under there, because obviously the depth that you're doing that becomes less. But yeah, the machine is really good. So the fact that we've now got the elliptical coils on the smaller sizes, that is great, because that makes it even better, the separation.
And so the 14x9, it's a robust coil. It's very well, strong built. I can see that one probably being used a little bit more in the water courses and also the beaches. I know, like you said before, Gary over in Florida in the USA, he loves that one for the surf where the waves are crashing, and especially on low tide, because it can handle that sort of pushing around a fair bit.
One of the most solid coils that I've ever used. You'd be very hard pushed to actually break the lugs off of your 14x9. It's absolutely solid as a rock. And that goes for the 15 inch as well. These are solid coils.
If they look after them well and don't sort of lean on them sort of sideways or anything like that when they're trying to bend down to pick out a target or anything like that, if they put the detector down, then the coil will last a long time, and they'll have plenty of use out of it, which will be great. So is there anything that you could sort of comment in general, sort of, large coil to small coil as far as settings go?
Generally, I'm just using them exactly the same as I would use the other coils. So my settings for the Minelab's 15x12 would be the settings that I use for your round 15. I mean, there are things that people, there's a common mistake that people actually slow down the recovery rate to make these coils work better. But generally, I run them, usually the recovery rate between 5-6 normally all the time, because that gives me a nice, good target response and good depth.
So Gordon, if you're heading out to one of your fields, do you tend to sort of take all your coils with you, or do you just tend to go just towards one coil and search over something like that? And with these 3 new NOX series coils that we've got, how would you sort of operate those in your fields and when you're detecting to try and maximize everything?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time I carry all the coils. The only exception would be if I'm going to go do water, because if I'm in streams, I pretty much know that I'd probably take the small coils, the small Minelab and your 10x5, and that would pretty much cover me for the day. And the 10x5 would be the absolute standard coil I'd use, because that gives me a good footprint. And then just as a backup, I would have the small Minelab coil, the little 6 inch coil, just in case there was something that I needed to really wedge the coil in between some rocks or something.
Then you would tend to go smaller coils for, very specialized water hunting, in between the stubbles. Then your 15 would be the open fields. So the 14x9, where do you think that one's going to fit?
Well, most of my river stuff is really, really specialist. My water stuff, you'll find that I'm only sort of, it's no more than 2 meters wide. So I don't need a big coil. I don't need the 14x9. I wouldn't need the 15-inch round. I would be going for a small coil. If I was going to go to open fields, ploughed fields, then again it depends, you know, what the makeup of the ground is, how much iron's there, is there a habitation site nearby, you know, and if it's a clean field, I'd go to a big coil. So it'd be a 15-inch coil if it's a big field. If though I walked onto the field, I saw lots of scatter of pottery, and you can see dark spots in the ground, dark areas, I'd go to a middle-sized coil, be it the 14x9, or even the 10x5, because then I know there's going to be a lot more iron there, and getting in between the iron is the main need for a coil on the Equinox. Yeah. So I would always go for the smaller coils on that sort of site. If I was going to go on to pasture, I'd try to work out if the pasture was long-term pasture or just short-term pasture, because you've got the difference of the two. You've got farmers rotating the field, 3 years plough, 1 year pasture, or sort of variations on that. But we've also got long-term pasture, which means that when the farmer first tried to put the plough through it, he hit rocks and stuff, so they just left it as pasture. Now, everything in those fields tends to be over 10 inches deep, and a lot of them over a foot deep. Yeah. So you need a big coil. You're not going to get, you tend not to be getting small coins like the small hammered coins, yeah, like these. You're going for the big stuff, like the big Roman coins. And so you want a big coil. You'd be hunting for quite high numbers. You wouldn't be going for anything like in the foil range. You'd be going for large numbers. So you'd be looking at sort of 20s, yep, signals, and faint signals, and then you'd be digging those up and they'd be deep. So big coils for pasture. You want the other 2 coils for open fields, and then the small coils for obviously for rivers.